that was John Monroe, he was reinstated as acting mayor. He was just fighting on the Confederacy. He was just fighting on the opposite side. And then you're going to reinstate him as the mayor? Come on, man. This was waiting to happen. So it was about 130 Black New Orleans residents that was marching. The mayor, who was a former Confederate, organized and led the mob of ex-Confederates, to block the 130 Black marchers. The damn mayor ordered them to block them. Now, this is why the eyewitness, or some of those papers, or I guess we consider those. So those eyewitness accounts, because it was investigated. This is why they said, oh, this was premeditated. The mayor did this. Now, the mayor, still the mayor, of course, who led this attack, he claimed they were sent to put down unrest that could come from the convention. But opposition would say the purpose was to prevent the meeting. So they're marching to the Institute where the convention is being held. And then when they're about a block or so away from the Institute, shots just ring off. Now, we can assume who shot the shots, right? So once they reached the Institute, the police and a white mob attacked them, beating the marchers while others rushed inside the building for safety. Now then, remember, the police and mob surrounded the Institute and opened fire on the building, just shooting indiscriminately in the windows. Just imagine. I mean, they didn't have machine guns back then, but I guess they had, like muskets or whatever, something like that. Either way, this is a mob. Also, the police, who had access to the city's armory, and they are surrounding this building where the convention is held, and then they just start just firing shots. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. This is this is a government meeting. This is a government convention. This ain't like it was no damn pep rally. This was a government meeting. It was everything was legal. After they just started shooting up the place, just shooting up everywhere, purposely shooting into the windows, they rushed the building. They got inside and began shooting into the crowd of delegates. What the hell? Imagine your city, let's say it's city council meeting or something like that, and a mob surrounds the building where the city council meeting is being held, and they just start shooting. Then they get in and they just start shooting up people inside. They have to have known there wasn't gonna be any consequences to this. Why would you go to this extreme lengths? When the mob ran out of ammunition, the delegates started fighting them back. So the delegates kind of beat them back, right? Because they were out of bullets. This is what they did. They left the building, regrouped, returned, and started breaking down the doors and firing on the unarmed delegates. Now, as the firing continued, some of the delegates attempted to flee or surrender. Some of those who surrendered, mostly black, were killed dead. They were shot dead. They said, okay, shit, fuck it, we ain't gonna do it. All right, let us go. Bam, they shoot them anyway. Now, by this point, the rioters and victims now included people who was never at the Institute. Remember that, spilling over. You letting the worst part of your society control your society. The worst part of society controlling society. That is a problem. Weed those people out. If you don't weed them out, do something with them, but get them out of sight. Get them out of the overall public eyes. And if they enact violence against people, punish them publicly to deter others from doing the same. That's what you say the reason for the laws, right? That's what you say the reason for punishment is to deter others. So if we go by your logic, because this is what they did to reinforce slavery, enact violence, killing, and then they would force the slaves to watch it. And what was their reason for doing it? Oh, you need to see it so that you know this is what happens when you try some shit like this. Well, okay, do the same thing to them. Now, what happened then? African Americans were shot on the street, pulled off of streetcars, beaten or killed. So there's different reports of the number of people that were injured and that died. It was about 300 people total that was injured and or killed. So the official reports reported 38 dead, which I stated before. They reported 38 dead and over 100 wounded. Other reports show 200 Black Union war veterans were killed, including 40 delegates at the convention. 238 people were killed, 46 were wounded. Now, like I said, the massacre, the New Orleans Massacre of 1866 went largely unpunished. First off, every single member of the police force should have been immediately jailed and fired. The mayor, at a minimum, should have been jailed and fired. And the firemen, they all should have been jailed and fired. All of these people should have been removed from office. They should have been kicked out of town. So those from the North was upset about the violence, and I'm assuming after the investigations and the reports, they figured, okay, well, we got to do something about this. And what they did was they helped basically the Republican Party of Lincoln take control of the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate in the 1866 elections. It's about 1 year after the Civil War. They have the elections of 1866. the Republican Party eventually take over the House and the Senate. Now, remember, because this happened in July of 1866, the elections of 1866 didn't happen until, of course, around November. After this, which the next massacre we'll talk about is the Memphis Massacre of 1866. The Memphis Massacre happened in May of 1866. New Orleans was then July of 1866. And then you have the elections in November of 1866. And so, of course, in response to these massacres in the South, they passed Reconstruction Acts of 1867. Those acts called for the army occupation of the 10 former Confederate states. And of course, some voting rights measures. And of course, martial law was reimposed by the federal government. Because remember, this happened about 4 years, I want to say. So the Union Army had already imposed martial law. And that martial law ended in May of 1866. And then this happens in July of 1866. Right after martial law ended, then they have this massacre led by the mayor and the city police department. Now, the mayor and some other city officials were removed from office for their part in the massacre. But that was about the most punishment that happened from this. That's it? You just remove him from office? This dude is responsible for nearly 300 deaths. And also probably a resurgence of the war. Because, wars start. They have, what they call little skirmishes. Well, we call little skirmishes or whatever. But I guess at some point, they actually declare war. But it always starts off from like little skirmishes here and there. And a skirmish is just like a small, it's not a battle. So it's not like the Battle of Gettysburg. It's not huge, but it's small. It's not big enough where it's a battle. And it's small enough where they don't consider it wartime, but they know that it's events that led to the war. So it's enough agitation where if enough of them happen, a war is near. And so that mayor should have never been there. These are city officials. These are officers, police officers who're supposed to uphold the law. At that point, I don't even know what that meant. Or we don't know what that meant because it's right after the Civil War. Technically, black people wasn't citizens. But you have a war. You have people who basically started their own country. And then after the war, instead of you removing those people from office, you put them back in office. And then you're pissed off that violence like this breaks out at the hands of those officials. This just shows the lengths that they would go to restore, quote unquote, restore racial order. I mean, this is just ridiculous. So the lack of accountability and continued violence against African Americans